What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Nothing But Skills, and today we're going to be talking about 3 mistakes you might be doing to your raid build, and that could be hurting you and your team from completing the raid. So these are the 3 main talents that I think you guys should be using on your build. There's a lot of different talents, and I use all of these talents, but there are 3 in particular that I tend to use the most. So the first one we're going to be talking about is Unbreakable. Unbreakable should be on most of your builds. When we did our speed run, we had, I want to say 6 to 7 guys running this. Now, Unbreakable, 70% of your max armor is repaired when your armor is depleted. Armor kits used within the next 7 seconds are not consumed. Now, this does require 11 or more defensive, so you'll have to grind the gear right. I did put out 2 builds that use this Unbreakable that you guys can use and build around and tweak to your playstyle. So you guys can just go look at those 2 build videos, and I'll put a link to both of those in the description. So what's so great about Unbreakable, it's like having a second life. If you ever remember Nomad in Division 1, it's kind of like that. You get 1 extra life, your armor goes back up, and then you can continue firing without having to worry about healing. And that gives you enough time to put out enough DPS. And for some bosses in the raid, it gives you time to take more damage, still put out some damage, and then finally you can get into cover. And another reason why it's great to have Unbreakable is you go down less, right? By you going down less, that means your teammates don't have to revive you as much, don't have to use their revive hive on you. And then they can still focus on the boss and put out DPS. You can pop your med kit and then keep putting DPS and then drop the boss. So it saves you guys time in the long run, where players don't have to keep dropping their revive hives or stopping to have to revive you. So Unbreakable is going to be that one talent that I recommend all of you guys putting on your build if you guys are going to beat the raid for the first time. Now, after you guys beat the raid the first time and you guys want to start using Unstoppable, I've seen people do that because they want to have a little bit more DPS, then go ahead and do that. But if you haven't beat the raid, I would recommend having all of your guys run Unbreakable and build around that. I put out 2 really good builds that you guys could use. Now, once you guys beat it, like I said, Unstoppable is still a really good one. Killing enemies grants 2% weapon damage for every 25,000 max armor, which is pretty good. If you have a lot of armor, especially in this update, it's going to work well. But Unbreakable is my go-to, and it's like a safety net for a lot of you players who might be struggling with the raid. So let's get into the next talent. Now, the next talent is going to be one of my favorite talents, Patience. After being in cover for 5 seconds, armor repairs for 5% every 1 second. Now, Patience, why it's so good is because in the raid, you'll get into cover a lot, and that can help you heal, right? Because if you only have your chem launcher or you're running the fixer drone, sometimes those aren't working, right? Because your fixer drone might be on cooldown, your chem launcher might just not be healing you fast enough. But Patience, what it does is when you're in cover, you get that armor repair going, and if you drop a chem launcher, it stacks on that, you can start to heal a little bit quicker. Now, with most gear pieces besides the Fenris, you have to either choose Patience or hard hitting, because either you want to go survivability or you want to go offensive. But with Fenris, you can run Patience and you can run hard hitting. So if you can create a build using the Fenris knee pads, that would work for you. I actually have 1 build that uses it and 1 build that doesn't. But for this build right here, my most recent build, I'm running the Gilligar knee pads because I need the more defensive slots to hit 11 for Unbreakable. So I choose survivability always over hard hitting, because even in a build where I can only put Patience on the knee pads, I can still hit almost 90% damage to elites, as you're going to see in just a second. So if we look at the character stat sheet on this build where I'm using Patience on the knee pads, my damage to elites is still 89%. And we'll get into the next talent in just a second. But yeah, Patience, I definitely recommend most of you guys putting it on your builds. If you can put the Fenris with Patience and hard hitting, I would use that. But if you can't, then Patience first, then hard hitting. Now, the next talent we're going to talk about is hard hitting, and how much damage to elites you should have on your build for the raid. Now, the raid, you fight a lot of named and elite enemies, which means stacking more damage to elites on your build is really beneficial in the raid. Now, a lot of times when you're playing challenging heroic missions, you don't use as much damage to elites, but when you do play these missions for the raid, you do want to stack damage to elites, and all your pieces can roll damage to elites, which is hard hitting. On your mask is the only piece that you can put an offensive roll, which you could get a high roll up to 55% damage to elites. Now, I've never got anything close to that. The highest I've gotten is 42%, but the rolls are out there. So hard hitting, 10% damage to elites. Now for the raid, I recommend having between 80% and 90% damage to elites. You can have a little bit more if you can stack it on your build and you have those perfect rolls, but realistically it's going to take you a while to get the build to have good armor, have good health, have good damage, and still be able to stack that much damage to elites on your build. But ideally, I've noticed when we have a squad that has 85-90% damage to elites on their builds, we hit a lot harder and we get through the raid a lot quicker. And the faster you can get through the raid, the less mistakes you're likely to make. I always notice the longer a raid takes, the more mistakes a person can do. And you know, if you're gonna make a mistake, I'd rather do it on a fast run than on a really slow run and then have to start all over. So damage to elites on the mask, you need to have it on the first offensive roll, which is probably going to be between 35 to 55%, and then damage to elites, the hard hitting talent, so that's an additional 10%. And then remember, on your weapon, you can put it on the scope and you can put it on the muzzle. So the muzzle can give you 5%, the scope can give you either 5% or 8% if you're going to use it with a nemesis because you want to get that additional 25% headshot damage from the holster talent. Then you need to use a scope, so you're going to lose 3% damage to elites, but you gain a 25% damage to elites. So having enough damage to elites on your raid build is key, and that's what I recommend. So remember, the 3 talents that you should have on your build going into the raid, and you should be inspecting your players who are teaming up with you, are Unbreakable, Patience, and Hard Hitting. Those are my 3 go-to talents, and the 3 talents that I think can help you guys improve on your success rate in the raid. Now remember, the raid is a lot of teamwork, so no matter what build you have, you guys need to communicate, stay calm, and have fun. If you guys have any questions on any of these 3 talents, or if there's a talent that you guys think that is crucial for the raid, let me know in the comment section. I just want to thank you guys again for all the support. Leave a thumbs up if you guys found this video useful, and if you're new to my channel, first time watching the video, hit the subscribe button, turn notification bell on, so when I release a video, you guys get notified. Until the next video, nothing but skills is out.